It's happening,
Is this where I
everyone.
tell you that I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep?
3 hours sleep, and we're going into a
With
5-hour
Deroir.
tea time right now. Secrets of the Obscure coming up this Tuesday. The expansion is dropping. Massive content, massive gaming. 10-hour tea time. In fact, tea time until the expansion releases. That's the reality. That's what we're doing. Yeah, I wheeled Deroir out of retirement, and Bloom, he's here as well. They've got blurred backgrounds. That's how you know it's serious business. We're in the mix. Here we go. Okay. And
Wait,
where
I
do
didn't
we
know.
even...
Bloom, did you retire too?
No. I mean, I haven't made content in a while, and I guess I
Okay,
haven't
okay.
been playing a lot recently, so maybe I
Yeah.
could class myself.
He's
as part of
retired.
that.
He's done. He despises Guild Wars 2, in fact, actually.
I, I've been back for like a month now, but I never really left. Like
Yeah.
I've been back. I've been
Yeah,
back actually playing the game, but I never really left. It's one of those like, yeah, I'm gonna suffer hard from the login reward changes because that is like my main fucking income of anything in this
Yep.
game. That is oof. That's gonna be rough. I don't know. how I'm
So-
gonna manage.
I kind of want to... Let's get into it.
Okay.
I think one thing about the lead to this expansion that I think has been quite interesting is there's not been crazy hyping from ArenaNet. It's going to be, they're going to drop all the hype on the launch. Yeah, they're almost certainly going to drop a trailer. That's their new MO these days. Big trailer, big promo. They're going to hit us with the hammer. They haven't really showed us much in terms of gameplay. Like, all of the meta events are mostly hidden, right? A lot of the content is very under wraps, right? We've seen like a few kind of ambient looks at like the maps and stuff like that, but it's all very hush-hush, which I find in stark contrast. And I kind of want to hear Bloom's take on this, because I find this to be in very stark contrast to a lot of other MMO marketing there as well. And I guess I would give my take on it first. I really feel like ArenaNet is trying to attract new players to the game. I think you see that in the feature set as well. Wizard's Vault tells players what to do. Ooh, you can ride your dragon immediately. Boom, go and ride your dragon. Right? Like, all of these things I think are very attractive to new players. And I think that's something that we have to consider. I think this has been a bit of a complaint with a lot of kind of veteran players. Like, where's the hype? Where's the hype? Well, I think a lot of players who are kind of looking in at Guild Wars 2 right now are actually going like, ooh, that's pretty cool, right? The mount system is always very well received, I think, from players coming from other games. And I think the expansion is targeting a lot of pain points that newer players are experiencing. It's hard to get into Guild Wars 2 because you have to play through the core game and like 50 years of all the story. This will be a standalone story. We have new player guidance systems coming into the game. You get a really overpowered Giga flying mount as well as a completely new player. So I feel like a lot of things are very heavily geared towards new players. So I think that will be very interesting to see how that actually plays out. And then they're kind of hoping that essentially the content is going to deliver for the veteran players. They're very confident that, yeah, you know what? You know, we're not hyping these gamers up on r/Guild Wars 2, but we're very confident these rifts, oh man, that's going to be huge. Right, those Cryptis, wow, look at them. Look at this frog, like completely obscuring the tea time right now, like just wiggling his ass in front of the camera. Yeah. We love to see that. Bardo, what do we think? What do we think? What's going on? What's going on with the expansion? That's the first point. Small point, you know, not a big question.
I think your point about it being focused on like addressing a lot of new player concerns and getting new players into the game is like all well and good, and I agree. I think it's a really good jumping in point for new players, especially because recently they kind of confirmed that the expansion was going to give you gliding, it was going to give you the raptor, and I kind of thought before that it wasn't, but now that it is, I think it's an okay offering despite not having any elite specs, which I think is like a really big part of the game, which is going to be a little weird for people jumping in for the first time. But like none of that matters if none of the new players know that it exists. And like it's so targeted towards new players, but there's like no like marketing that would appeal to a wider audience that would actually get people looking into the game. I mean, I don't know how many people in chat have friends that are like going to be jumping into Guild Wars 2 for the first time with this expansion. I have 0. And not only that, I have friends that have played Guild Wars 2 and have played previous expansions, and they did not know this expansion was even coming out until they read like some subreddit post last week. Yeah, which I think is a huge failure on ArenaNet's side. It's really baffling to me because, again, like as I said before the show started, I think End of Dragons had a lot of marketing push before it came out. We had maybe 3 months of lead up to the expansion with just like new stuff coming, new videos coming out like every week. And yeah, we've had none with Secrets of the Obscure, which is just strange to me. I don't know what happened between End of Dragons and Secrets of the Obscure to kind of change that. I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't see the like return on investment with End of Dragons, but they, they've talked about how successful Guild Wars 2 has been recently, how much bigger the player base is now. It's kind of strange that, none of that energy has been like focused into any kind of hype marketing or trailers, and it's always funny.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just have a like slight counterpoint, I guess,
because it's heating up. Okay.
It doesn't necessarily because like I don't know. From my perspective, it doesn't necessarily seem like it's targeting new players as much as it's like targeting the casual majority of the player base. Like we're talking retention here. I think like X-Pac, the next one. I was about to say X-Pac 2. Wow, my brain is apparently weird like that. But the next one, that might be the one that's targeting new players and actually trying to get people into this. Now that you have like retention of player base, you have all these systems in place, all of that after Soto launches. Maybe that's the actual goal here. It's just keeping the player base somewhat. I mean,
I would only argue that I think every expansion should be a good jumping in point for people on the outside. Like their number one goal with an expansion, I think, is to kind of like create marketing buzz around their game. It's to get a foot in the door. They said it themselves as well that they wanted to do this like more consistent cadence because then, Guild Wars 2 would appear on the news and on social media more often. So, and I think people that play Guild Wars 2, they're going to buy new Guild Wars 2 content no matter what. I don't like anyone who's currently playing Guild Wars 2. I don't know why you wouldn't buy Secrets of the Obscure. It's like $20-$25 for new content, So yeah, I don't know. It's fascinating to me. It's really strange. I hope it pays off. I hope that the launch trailer is omega hype and people see it and they see that the expansion's available now and they immediately purchase and jump in. But I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I don't know. I don't think that their hype cycle is. I'm worried. Just real quick, like it's one of two things. They either have a lot of cool shit and they want to be really secretive and mysterious about it because that's the whole kind of memo of the expansion, or they don't have a lot to show and they don't want to overhype people. And yeah, I mean it's. I don't know.
You know what my prediction is? I'm actually going to make a prediction here. And this is a prediction that kind of annoys me because I think it's going to be accurate. I think the expansion is going to have some cool stuff, right? I think the strike missions will probably be cool. I'm particularly interested actually in this open world meta event that they have actually confirmed is supposed to be, a little bit above the others in terms of complexity and, player coordination and so on. This was confirmed in some of the, online journalism outlets. And what annoys me about this is that there's been a lot of unrest, I think it would be fair to say, right? A lot of uncertainty. Because this is a very uncertain time. Like, the format is changing. This is a completely new style of content release for Guild Wars 2, more akin to other MMOs, right? Like, with the way they're doing it. Like, expansion, then you have these mini patches that bring additional features and content as opposed to the living world. And you know what? I think it's going to release, and people are going to go, oh, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. Why didn't they tell us about this sooner? Yeah. And I think a lot of the unrest is for no reason. To give credit where it's due, I imagine that part of this is not only because of the, kind of like this is it's such a Guild Wars 2 classic at this point, right? But some of like the internal restructuring stuff that was happening, like, entirely new content structure, entirely new game director. And also there was like the stuff with NC, right? I think there was layoffs, I think, right? At NC. And of course that was Like, I think it's known that that's kind of like part of the way that Guild Wars 2 like handles marketing, and even like stuff like support, right, is done through NC, if I recall correctly. So that probably also didn't exactly help, right, that was also going on at the same time. And another thing is, this is something that Deroir actually pointed out, and this is something that I think is completely corrected too, actually. I think the thing about this expansion, I think ArenaNet know this too, is that we're only really going to see the full picture. We're only going to see the full experience and what this looks like, what this package is going to look like next expansion. I know that sounds like such a meme ArenaNet partner shill mode take to say, but I think if you actually examine
I'm not an ArenaNet partner anymore. I can say whatever the fuck I want.
I really think that if you examine the format, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because we're going into this after a content drought. Right, a pretty big content drought after EOD and before EOD. Bear that in mind, right? We're in a really weird spot. There was a massive content drought before EOD, and a huge one afterwards as well. And then they gave us Guile the Delves. So, ouch, right? It's not hot, right? For a while now. But the thing is about this new format is that we're almost getting, oh, dude, I'm gonna get meme for this. Half an expansion, and then they're pumping the rest of it over the course of the year, and then immediately hitting another one. Like, let's be clear about this. For those who are a bit out of the loop, this is the new format for Guild Wars 2. Expansion, patch 1, patch 2, patch 3, expansion. We're going to be getting an expansion every year. This is all but confirmed at this point, right? They've very heavily implied this. And what that means is that right now, we're going to go, ooh, this isn't going to be a lot of content. But that's because we've had this massive drought before it, and we don't have that expansion afterwards. When patch 3 hits, patch 3 is going to hit in 9 months from the expansion launch. There'll be another expansion 3 months after that, and that tastes a lot different compared to this. Do you know what I mean? Right? That's a totally different experience. Like
the feeling of stability and just like going through the year with the certain expectations, and then knowing that the year after that you can have those same expectations. We've never had that for Guild Wars 2. Never. It's always been like this shift in like strategy. Like ever since the game launched, like what are we doing? Are we doing Living Story? Is it free? Is it Ice Boot Saga expansions? Whatever. Like it's always been this like I don't know, rolling train. We're building the
I kind of want it to be a bit in front of us. I want it to be a little bit more precise there, in fact, actually, because maybe the chat is not quite understanding what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that we're going to have a content drop that's about half of what a normal expansion is. In my opinion, when EOD, I think the playtime for the story was about 10 to 12 hours, depending on if you rush or if you kind of went chill. I think Soto is going to be about half of that. But the difference is that the next expansion after this, you're going to have a 3-month gap between the final patch of Soto and then the next expansion drops. Whereas now, we've had a pretty big drought before Soto and some pretty rough patches, some of the weaker patches the game has ever had in between. And what I'm trying to get at is that the experience of having smaller patches frequently, really close to the previous ones, is actually a very different experience than having a smaller patch after a really big drought. Like, this expansion is probably going to feel a little bit small to a lot of people, I think, comparatively. Honestly, who knows? Maybe they popped off, right? This is one thing that I've noticed that does excite me. Almost all of the models, the animation rigs, are reused. A lot of assets I've seen are reused. That communicates to me, this could be bigger than we're potentially expecting. I know that sounds like cope, okay? But trust me, look, making animation rigs and fully new assets, that's some of the most time-intensive stuff that you're going to find in game
It's
dev,
for fucking
right?
ever. And I don't understand what the critique is. Like, I've seen this all over the Reddit. I see this in every Twitch chat. Oh yeah, they're reusing assets. They're reusing character model rigs. Jeez, do you know how much time goes into animating those and creating rigs that work and then like having that shippable? I mean, Jesus.
I want to say
it's fine. There's nothing wrong with a reuse.
I agree that like a lot of games do this. I know kind of deeply about like the game development process and that sort of thing. But like I've definitely not seen it this egregious before in a game. I've really Soto is really like doubling down on it, and I think that's fine provided that that energy and that like extra time has been reinvested in other parts of the expansion. I think if people don't see that, then it's going to hurt a lot. But it does give me hope that they've been able to focus more on things like I don't know, like the story length or something like that. Maybe the story is actually quite meaty. Maybe it is like a 10-hour story that takes place over just 2 maps and maybe some core maps as well. Maybe because they've reused these models that they've put more effort into the bosses or something like that. That's my hope. I really hope we see like we kind of see where that time's been reinvested rather than I don't know, because at the moment it feels a little I'm in that camp of people that where it feels really cheaply made, I guess, because everything's so I get it. I get that feeling. It just remains to be seen how Soto pans out. If there's a lot of content, I will eat my hat and be like, well, I don't care. I don't care about any reused stuff if like the content is actually meaty and really good.
I really hope the focus is just on the content and that this is just their way of pumping out more or better stuff. I mean, it's not really going to change all that much, guys, if it's a new character model break. I mean,
and again, like, I do think this will be it will be a very different experience, I think, because a lot of the content, and this was kind of the same with EOD, I think, for me too. And I guess it's always been the same for Guild Wars 2 sometimes, like less so with Heart of Thorns, but I think a lot of content that's attractive to me is going to be coming afterwards. And I think this was probably the biggest thing that I think is going to be missing with the expansion that could maybe be considered a misstep. There's not going to be a big chase thing on launch, right? There's no strike CMs, there's no fractal CM, there's no legendary armor, and there's no legendary relic. All of those things are coming after launch of the expansion, right? And I think this is a weird one, right? Like it seems that what might be lacking is this one goal that players are going to have to go after that's specific to the expansion. I think this is more of an issue actually to like, again, kind of like more veteran players. It's kind of irrelevant for new players, to be frank, but obviously, right, like veteran players are going to be the ones who are like complaining about it all over the place. So that it obviously is a little bit relevant at the same time. But still, like that to me is what I see as like the potential weakness of this. I'm actually very curious if this is something that's only going to be the case with Soto. I bet they would have loved to have legendary armor like on release, right? There's no way they wouldn't want that. There's no way they wouldn't want the legendary relic to have
it
that.
Feels off to not have that goal post, really. Like you start out the grind, you start doing the metas, the maps, and what's it necessarily for? I don't necessarily know. Like, obviously, there's going to be like collections or whatever. Probably like, I don't know, an infusion or two here and there. But the big ticket item for me is the legendary armor. I mean, and it is for many. And just not knowing what I'm working towards or how much grind I actually have to put in. I mean, that's just going to be an annoyance. And I'm just going to wait until it's actually released before I begin that process. I know a lot of people aren't, but...
I'm basically hoping at launch they start allowing, precursor forging for those legendaries, and that's enough to string us along for a bit. It is strange, because, I mean, End of Dragons launched with the whole sort of, like, suite of Aurene weapons, which carried it for a very long time. Like, I imagine that really helped with engagement. I agree. I share that concern about like longevity with this expansion from the get-go.
And I think for me, the answer to this is, as usual, open world maps. Like, in simplest terms, what I'm looking for with an expansion to any game, actually, not just Guild Wars 2, is I want the expansion to add something to the core gameplay loop. Like, you're logging in, okay, let's go play some Guild Wars 2. And I want some of that to be Soto. And realistically, that's going to be the strike mission normal modes that will probably naturally kind of fit into that, which is pretty cool. but also I think the open world maps are absolutely pivotal. I think they need to be good, they need to be rewarding, and they need to be engaging, right? It cannot be a Path of Fire situation where the maps are just like one and done, right? You play through them, you might look at some of the pretty, the pretty vistas, right? And then you go back to Heart of Thorns. That was, I think, one of the biggest failures of Path of Fire, was that day one, you played Path of Fire. Day two, you were like, oh, I beat it. I'm going back to Heart of Thorns now, right? And I'm going to go play Heart of Thorns. I really want to see these open world maps be good. Oh, yeah.
I remember that launch so vividly because it was like the main thing that everyone was working towards, or like the big ticket item there, was also the legendary weapons. But it was easier and cheaper to get it from the maps previous to the expansion, so no one was playing the actual expansion map. That was so like counterintuitive. The design all around. It was ugh.
And that's why it makes me really interested to hear that they're at least hyping up this one map as, ooh, this is a pretty interesting meta. I think that, you know what? I'm going to say it. They actually could make one meta actually a little bit hard. They won't make the mistake of putting a mount behind it this time. It would be so funny if they put the sky scale behind it, but they won't. That would be not a good idea. It would be really cool. Would it not actually be really cool if there was this kind of capstone event that's, important to the expansion? It appears, I think the one they were talking about is the one in Amnitus, right? Like this kind of like big castle style area that is going to be like invaded by these cryptists, right? And there's going to be like a big boss. They did actually show some footage of this. It actually got redacted, funnily enough. So I'm not sure if we were supposed to see that.
Yeah. Oh no.
But yeah, it looked a little interesting. And look, people are putting copium, but yeah, I'm really hoping that that's really exciting. I'm not saying it has to be hard, because look, this is going to look now. You know what? Let's annoy some people. Dragon's End wasn't hard. It never was. Even the original version wasn't. It just required effort and coordination. And honestly, that's all I ask. I just want an event that actually requires people to work together, right? And actually understand how it works and, put a bit of elbow grease in. Some of my favorite experiences in the game were actually Ender Dragon's launch. I remember having hundreds of people in Discord simultaneously trying to beat this boss. I think that's a really impressive thing that I think only Guild Wars 2 can deliver that. I don't think there's any other game that can deliver that. Where you have like all of these completely random players who have never met before, you funnel them into this map and you all have to overcome this challenge. And that's really exciting. And I think there's room for that in Guild Wars 2. Even if they nerf it after launch, just give me like a couple of days of it, like just make it hard day one, right? Then just nerf it until they're fine. I'll take it. I'll take that as a deal. But yeah, I think funnily enough, even though I'm a big raid guy, PvP world versus world, all that kind of stuff, I think most of my interest is actually going to be in open world, funnily enough. I think the strike mission normal modes, weirdly enough, probably won't engage me that much because they're just not going to be that hard, which is correct, by the way. The normal mode shouldn't be hard. They should be accessible, obviously. I think the open world maps might actually be the most interesting thing that I think they can deliver to really give you that addition to the core gameplay loop.
I hope stuff like the meta event are the forefront of like whatever gameplay trailer thing that they release. Because I think that it's so funny because I think Guild Wars 2 is the MMO that's the easiest to advertise because it looks so cool. And like it has insane spectacle. And if you ask a lot of like semi-casual to casual MMO players what they want to see out of an MMO, it's just hundreds of people slamming their face against a massive boss, which is just like, that is Guild Wars 2 to a T. So I think that's why the marketing surprises me so much, because I feel like I'm sure they've got that in Secrets of the Obscure and they're just not using it, which is just so strange to me. Like the Rift video and the little slow pans across the environment just feels so tone deaf, because I think that Guild Wars 2 is pretty easy to show off those really fun, cool aspects. And they're just not, which is shocking. But I was gonna say, I think a big part of changing the gameplay loop is the Wizard's Vault. I think that is genuinely gonna be like game changing for a lot of people. I think for you, because you're not into your skins and shit, that like maybe it won't do as much. But for someone like me, where the only reason I play video games in general really is to like look cool and get cool new armor pieces and fashion and that sort of thing. For me, the Wizard's Vault is going to be like fantastic. That's exactly what it needs to be. I just hope that the objectives are good and funnel enough players into those activities that it actually feels like it has a meaningful impact. And I hope that the rewards are good, because if like there's a season where the rewards just aren't good, none of it looks cool, then I think people just aren't going to care that much.
But you can always just save up for the next season.
Yeah,
that's the
True.
I think
good thing about this.
I think the Wizard Vault has some really big potential. So basically, for context, this is a replacement of the daily system. It's essentially like a battle pass, except not horrible, right? It will. You can pick what activities you want. You can pick PvP, world versus world objectives, PvE objectives, and it will send you out into various areas in the world on like a daily and weekly basis to do a bunch of stuff. Right, like all sorts of things. Like it tells you jumping puzzles, go kill players in world versus world, right? All sorts of, bizarre objectives that you can do. And what I really like about it is that they are actually opening up mount skins to not be cash shop exclusive anymore, which I think is actually really nice. There will be mount skin rewards from gameplay alone, which is actually that's really cool, to be honest. Like, I'm a huge fan of that. I think the big feature with the Wizards Vault is that it will be giving direction to players, and I think this actually is something that's really exciting. I don't know if you remember like the rush events they had, like Fractal Rush and World Boss Rush. I think it's going to be really cool, and you even see this now. I don't know if you guys ever do like daily Fungus Among Us. Right, when it's daily, like everyone's doing Fungus Among Us. I think it's actually really fun. And this is going to be a more extreme version of that, because what's going to happen is that whenever like objectives in a certain area of the world are in the Wizards Vault, everyone's going to go do them. So you're going to have this like feeling of community there, like everyone's doing the same objective. I think that's always really cool in an MMO, in my opinion. I think the Wizards Vault will deliver on that. I'd love to see them just combo that and just do like boss rush as well. I think that's really fun. I don't know about you. Maybe some people think this is really lame, but I kind of like it when, oh, look, there's a progress bar and we've got to do loads of events to fill up that progress bar, right? And like, reach goals for beating all these fractals and world bosses. I think some of that's actually really fun as part of an MMO. And again, giving players direction is really important, especially new players. And this is why I really think this is a new player expansion, because I think new players don't know what the hell's going on most of the time or what they're supposed to be doing. And ArenaNet are finally saying, we're going to tell you what to do. Like, historically, ArenaNet has been very opposed to this. Like, oh, no, play how you want. Do anything. It turns out if you say do anything, people go, I don't know what to do. I'm lost, right? But now the game is going to say, actually, you, go do that. And you'll be able to, unlock some of these rewards, right? And get some of this stuff from the Wizards Vault. It has some really good potential, I think, to be a fantastic addition to the game, a really, really good system that could be definitely a big game changer. Like, definitely less so for veteran players, 100%. But for new players and returning players, I think it's going to be absolutely massive. I expect to see new and returning players retain pretty well, primarily because of like the Wizards Vault system and the Sky Scale being given out as well for free. I think people are actually really underestimating that. And this is something that I think ArenaNet, well, actually, the Vault, I've got to say this for the meme, but the Vault and the Sky Scale positioning here with where it is in the expansion, this is literally taken from WoW Dragonflight. And with good reason. It turns out if you give people the cool dragon, like within half an hour of gameplay, and you give people an easy way to unlock cool cosmetics just by playing the game without spending money or without grinding, the same content over and over again, it turns out people really like that. Who'da thunk it, right?
Genuinely curious, do you think it's a response to Dragonflight, or do you think they had it in development before that and it just pure coincidence that it was similar? Because that is quite a small window to be, developing such a feature,
I mean, they did say there was one of the blog posts where they said that the maps were designed around the coolest mount.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, I mean,
it's like, did they make all that in response to Dragonflight? Because that only came out like end of last year.
So, it depends what you mean by response. Like, my read on it would be, I think Grouch, the game director, is the kind of guy who says, why are we being different for the sake of being different? Right? And I think this has been one of the biggest issues that has plagued Guild Wars 2's development. Sometimes they're like, ooh, we're the different MMO. Let's just be different for no reason. Right? And I think Grouch is like, no. Sometimes these other MMOs do things for a reason. Sometimes they've got good ideas and we don't need to reinvent the wheel for absolutely no reason. Sometimes it's good to give players direction instead of just telling them nothing and saying, no, I don't want it for you. Can play how you want, I promise. Right? Sometimes it's good to actually give people the cool mount early on and not have to do like a stupid collection of collecting like 21 eggs, right? Like have a cosmetic for doing the stupid 21 eggs, right? Like don't have the entire thing behind 21 eggs. And I think this is... I think this is the new game direction for Soto. I think that's very important. And hell, even look at the expansion model structure. Look, the expansion model structure is essentially a traditional MMO structure. Content, patches, expansion. Content, patches, expansion. No weird separate thing that you get for free, but it's not attached to the expansion. So if you miss it, you've got to then purchase it with gems again or any of this weird stuff, right? Content, patches, next one, move on. It's very, again, I'm going to say, wow, again, it's almost identical to the way World of Warcraft releases its content. So I wouldn't say it's a response, but it's more like MMOs have been taking ideas from Guild Wars 2 and refining them and making them successful for years now. This is Guild Wars 2 kind of doing the same in reverse and catching up a little bit in other ways. I mean, hell, look, in my opinion, one of the best systems that World of Warcraft has is Mythic Plus. It's Fractals, right? It's a better version of Fractals. That, ArenaNet just didn't iterate on Fractals, right? And now Guild Wars 2 is, in my opinion, essentially saying, okay, we're going to take some of your ideas and make them better because the sky scale is really good. It's going to be really fun to use. I think the Wizard's Vault is going to be less gimmicky than stuff like the Trading Post, right, in World of Warcraft, because I think the overall system there is going to be a bit more flexible, I think. Yeah, it's not exactly a response. It's more like, I guess it kind of is a response. I don't know. It depends on what you mean by that, but kind of, yeah. There you go. That's my answer. That's my take.
Yeah, I just mean, did they like see it and they were like, we should do that, or if they just were developing it anyway and then it sort of just.
I think overall it's just it's a great reuse of the most impactful mount that we have in the game. I mean, the sky scale was already it came to fruition in like the weirdest patch ever because we all kind of thought that maybe this is actually the end of Guild Wars 2, and then it turned out that maybe that was actually the end, gonna be the end of Guild Wars 2, and then the layoffs and everything kind of changed that direction, and suddenly the sky scale wasn't the end; it was just the new beginning of what was to come, and then, well, it's time to revitalize that absolutely insane game-breaking mount and just turn it into an actual expansion feature. Yeah. I think it's just overall it's an absolutely fantastic move for the game just to make it more accessible because it's such a fucking... I mean, the 21 eggs, no one's ever thought
no one wants to do the 21 eggs. No one enjoys that. No one enjoys 21 eggs. Especially after you've just done like 18 scales. You've already done that one. You know, it's the third one. You don't want to see that. To be honest, it's not ideal.
I have blocked that like memory out as like oof, so traumatic. I don't want to relive that.
Yeah, you really do hate to see it. When you finish one collection, it says, "Hey, I'm going to ask you to go around the island one more time for 21 eggs." It's
rough.
It's not good. It's definitely rough. Yeah, I think there are some great ideas in the expansion. I personally, I am a big believer in the current format, right? 100% actually.
Same.
I think it's gonna be really good for the game overall. I was
kind of saying this before as well. Before I think when we were, I don't know if I actually said it on stream here, but this is actually kind of the reason why I'm back. It's like it's very much catering to me, my like lifestyle now, where open world, I can jump in and out. There's events all over the place. I don't necessarily have to organize with like big raid groups and whatnot to do all the different content and get all the cool rewards. Even though, obviously, I appreciate that stuff too. It seems like this expansion is very much catering to people like me, the casuals. Yeah, with 60 wives and 80
16
kids,
wives and 18 jobs. Yeah, I mean it's
so many jobs.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, I think it's going to be, in a way, and I'm saying this without a shred of irony or derision, actually. I think it's really going to play to Guild Wars 2's strengths. It's going to be good content that drops every couple of months. So you log in, you blast it, and then there you go. You know, you don't have to stick around anymore if you don't want to. You can obviously continue playing the game, but there's going to be content. It drops every 3 months. Log in, blast, and then you can go back to doing whatever you want. Go play some other games, right? There's more games than Guild Wars 2, you know? And I think ultimately that is where Guild Wars 2 is positioned in the market, right? If we can get a little bit corp here, we get our corper hats on for a moment. That is ultimately how Guild Wars 2 wants to be. It's like, yeah, we are high value. You don't pay a sub fee. We release content. It's still here. There's no vertical progression. Log in, do the content. You can log out if you want or don't. It's entirely up to you. It's a game that works alongside other games very well. I think that this model will actually kind of even make that even better, right? Especially because it's going to be very predictable and very consistent. Yeah, it's going to be funny to see how well this ages. Like, imagine if it all just crumbles to dust and fails immediately. Like that, that would be rough, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I kind of doubt it will.
I doubt it as well. I think it's fine. Yeah.
Simply because of the legendary armor. That thing has single-handedly kept raids alive to this day.
No,
Let's
dude,
be real.
raids are fucked. They're dead.
It's the only reason why people still new players still want to get into it. It's because there is this giant thing at the end of it. And now we're putting that into PvE. Those maps are never gonna die. I will tell you that right now.
Yep. That is 100% true.
It is such a wild thing. Like, it's the biggest motivator for anyone in this game. Apparently, it's legendaries. It's the ultimate convenience. It's gonna absolutely kill me when the relic thing comes out, and there's gonna be 3-6 months before we get the legendary version. I am not used to not having legendaries anymore. I cannot function without the legendary gear. Everything except for the
it's unplayable.
breather.
Yeah.
It's unplayable. It is, honestly, oh my god. I don't understand people who don't have legendaries. Come on, people. Get in the game.
That's me.
Start grinding. Come on, man.
Honestly.
If you don't have full legendary, what are you doing? Okay, what are you doing? Yeah, do you know what's going to be painful? Waiting for the legendary relic. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's gonna be
absolute
bad.
pain because it's gonna be 6 months of just like trying to figure out all of these relics, not really wanting to commit to any, like tossing it around from characters because there's more. Oh my god, it's gonna be fuck that shit. I just want the legendary right out the gate. Just the relic. Give me the armor later. That's fine. But the relic, my god, absolute pain.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to have something else to go for. Like, I'm actually really excited about Relics. I'm excited that I have a new item that we've got to really focus on trying to farm for. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had to replace any piece of my gear. I'm just excited to have something else.
Yeah, the pain for me is just going to be I'm going to have to. For every single build, I'm going to have to select a relic. And if I ever want to change it, I have to change it every single time and go and actually collect the relic, right? And actually buy a relic and then slot it in, right? And change it around. It's like,
it's going to be like, the Jade bot. I have one character with the Jade bot.
Don't even remind me about
I'll play on an alt. I'll try to use a zipline. And I'm like, wait. No, I don't have a Jade bot on this character.
Worst system implementation ever.
I agree. Jade bot was absolutely.
Why can you not change? You can change everything in the hero panel except for Jade bot fucking modules. Why do I have to go to a station to change something that I need right now? What's the point of this whole fucking It's.
Imagine if for the relics, you've got to go to somewhere in the Wizard's Tower to slot in your relic.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Don't make me cry right now.
It's going to be one of those really interesting situations, I think, where Arena almost has to be a little bit careful here. Because, make no mistake, Arena are adding vertical progression with this expansion. They absolutely are. Relics are vertical progression. And Jade bots are vertical progression. It's pretty significant, too, like having that extra vitality. Yeah. I'm very curious if they actually plan on doing something like this for every expansion, kind of like changing up a system every single time, so you have vertical progression every single time. I think they need to be careful there, otherwise they are going to face some pushback. I imagine they will actually face a little bit of pushback from adding relics into the game, actually. Like, purely because it's going to be something that you have to actually get on every single one of your characters. Because we've seen the effects. The effects are, essentially the 6 bonuses from runes. So they're gonna be relevant, right? Like, you're 100% gonna want to pick these up, right? They're not gonna be like, you don't have to have them. You're gonna have to get these.
I saw in an article. I don't know if it was like a mistranslation or something, but I think in one of the articles they talked about how one of the strikes is like kind of designed around a specific relic. and that having this specific relic equipped interacts with mechanics in the strike.
Wait, what? That
Yeah.
sounds
Okay.
terrible.
I gotta try to find that post. I know,
Wait,
but
there's
I'm
no
like, that's a little
way.
strange.
It's just gonna
I
be
gotta
like
find this
one
post.
guy
I
that
saw
has to
it.
have
I
it.
saw it. I hope someone else can
There's
actually back me up
no
on that.
way they would do that.
I saw something about how like the relics interact with some fights, which is interesting.
Part of me kind of loves that because it makes it a little bit more, but I've wanted to say intricate, but it's not. It's just a checklist. Like you have to have this one
Nah,
stupid
that's
thing, and it
that's
becomes
gotta
like
be
a,
a me.
yeah.
That's gotta
Oh, yeah.
be. Wait,
No, I gotta show you. I gotta
yeah.
find
Where's
you
the
that.
source?
Like,
Where's the citation?
People backing me up. People
Yeah,
are
the
backing me
chatter,
up.
the chatter
They
are
can
actually
see it.
backing
They
that
can
up.
see it. Far out.
Oh,
100 gold per relic. Just do that strike.
Ooh. Let's see what
Everyone
actually
has
gets
to have
said.
it.
Let's dig into this because
Can
there's got to be
someone
more to it
find
almost.
this?
Who's got the citation? Who in the chat is who are the nerds? We need the nerds right now.
Was it
Because that,
like
I mean, I
French or
don't know.
Italian one?
There's got to be a little bit more to than that. Like that just seems like a really scuffed implementation. It doesn't sound like something ArenaNet would do.
All that aside, relics do actually seem like a really good system. Like I'm pretty interested in seeing what that might actually bring because there's so many different build variations that can come from this that don't rely on like the 6th rune slot or whatever. You can just kind of change up the relic. That different kind of gameplay, I'm very interested to see. So,
Yeah.
but there is going to be 6 months or 7, however long it takes to actually get the legendary thing before it really like becomes fun because I'm just not gonna be flipping around with exotic relics all the time. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I think. Oh, I might have read this as well. I think. Wait, was it where the writer was talking about how, I can definitely see myself like changing relics for each encounter or something?
No. It was very specific.
It was very specific. You think it was the Italian article?
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm on the Italian article. I'm searching for relic. Okay, let's see what we got here. I actually don't. Yeah, I mean the relic stuff.
I think I saw it on the subreddit because someone had posted one of the blogs and like had posted like their interesting findings from this specific blog post, and one of them was that. Far out. I gotta see it. I gotta find this, man. It's gonna.
Yeah, you've got to find this because that is an alarming thing to say. I mean, I guess it could have been like a strange translation thing. I guess that could have been going on there.
While you're searching for that, I'm gonna share a like very fringe wish that I have for the relic, the legendary relic.
Yep.
I wish that it slots in with the rest of the raid effects. And it evolves the orbs above your head.
Oh yeah, like for the legendaries.
I want that to finally fucking happen.
There's no way they're gonna do that.
There is no way. They're gonna do something entirely new because it's supposed to be new. It's all Soto. Yeah. But one can dream, right?
Yeah.
Just like Bloom just dreamed this this article into existence.
No. I'm telling you, it's real. It's real. I saw it. I mean, I'm excited about relics. I'm a little like at the moment. I'm a little cautious of their implementation because the ones that we saw were very like it'll do this effect when you use your elite skill, which is like I don't know. It's fine, but I think it falls into that like dangerous territory of just where you don't care what this skill does anymore because it's just a button to do something else, and all the other effects are just totally incidental. I hope that there's more. I mean, I'm sure there'll be more exciting ones than that. And the idea of like being able to slot in a relic to juice up an ability is kind of interesting, and they could kind of build on that if they had ones for, heal skill or a certain type of utility skill. But they do need to be careful of like not just trotting on the feet of like what the skills already do. They talked about purity of purpose, and I worry that relics are maybe just totally antithetical to that because you're just replacing one skill with another.
How would you feel if they were more just buffs, so to speak? So it's not an actual like effect. So like
basically
like plus 10% demon damage.
Oh, I
That'd be
basically, I'm kind
lame.
of
That'd be so
my
lame.
dream.
Yeah,
I would
what
really
about-
like.
How would
I
you
would
feel
really
about
like.
it like that?
I would like if there was something like ARPG, like Diablo 4's aspects, where they were like a significant part of your build craft.
I don't
to
know
the
what
point
that is.
They
So
were. Okay,
can
they're
you
like.
explain
How would
like
I?
F5?
How would I describe it? They're like. They're like really big modifiers to your entire play style, almost. Like, how would I describe it? Like, oh man.
I mean, the
It's like a
elite
really good
activation thing is also a pretty big change to your playstyle. So
I mean, is it, or will you just kind
it
of
could
like
be. That's the
change
thing.
how you use the one button as opposed to like how you actually play your class? I'm picturing something like something that's almost like a grandmaster trait that you
Yeah.
can slot in. So it's like every time you CC, you gain stability or something. Like something that actually does meaningfully change your build.
Yeah, I think
That's hard, yeah.
weirdly enough, this is going to sound really boring, but I think if you just have relics that generate boons, you can actually enable a lot of builds with that. Like a lot of builds kind of have holes in them that you could potentially fill in with a relic. They have like a weakness that you could potentially compensate for if you got like access to a boon in some way. That could all of a sudden do it. Like when you kind of activate, if you can grant a boon when you activate a particular weapon skill, or you grant a boon when you activate your heal skill or your elite skill, or when you use a utility skill even, right? Like you can potentially get some value out of that. Or when you use a profession mechanic, right? Like it can interact with all that.
Yeah.
I think that making them interactive and kind of activate on you using certain parts of your toolkit, I think can make them really exciting. And I think there's some other potential ones too, like, every time you use a different ability in a row, you get a damage modifier. And then that could be like really impactful to a rotation depending on how it's tuned, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or
so
like,
you've got to like almost
fervent
like...
force, hey?
Yeah.
Something like fervent force. You use a certain type of skill, you reduce the cooldown of another type of skill.
That stuff is so
spicy.
scary with balance, right? Like that is really scary. You know what's weird though? Okay,
I don't want more boons.
People don't like the boon spam. People don't like the boon spam, but you know what? I'm actually meme pilled on this at this point. And let me explain what that even means by meme pill. Herald right now is one of the most disgusting, overpowered, repulsive builds the game has ever seen. Like, it is like an insult to the design of Guild Wars 2. But you know what? Everyone has fun when there's two heralds in the group.
Yes.
There it is.
It's great. Feels good. Honestly, it's kind of one of the things that surprised me the most coming back to like actively playing the game is realizing that I'm actually really enjoying the meta. The balance feels good. There's a lot of really fun builds out there.
I agree.
All around for all different classes, and I'm just like, I mean, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah. I agree. People don't like the Scrapper changes. This is the first time I've ever been so excited to play Scrapper. I actually really love Scrapper right now. I think it's really fun. The like splashing, comboing your combo fields. I really love it.
I think supports being strong makes Guild Wars 2 fun. That's the way it is. And especially both the damagey ones and the heal ones. Like if you look at what's really cool about something like Herald, and I think Relics could feed into this potentially with, again, like some more boon access, especially like the utility boons. Because one thing that some healing builds have that's a bit of a problem, like I think this kind of happened with Druid a fair bit, is that they almost like don't have enough buttons to compete with like the badly designed specs like Firebrand. Yeah, I'm just going to rip the bandit off. Like having 15 extra skills, not good design. But it's hard to compete when all of those, it has like 1 million skills and they're all really good. And relics can potentially be an extra skill for you, or they can be an extra trait, just like you said. And that actually could be very potentially exciting for maintaining design that people like. So keeping a profession, a build intact, but helping it fit into the metagame a little bit more. Because the genie's out the bottle, guys. We are never going back to not having every boon in the game permanently. That is a non-question. That's never happening in 1,000,000 years. It's just not going to happen. The question is how do we make all of the builds kind of fit into that mold and still be fun to play? That's the question. And I think Relics can be part of that answer, actually. Part of like how you might go about doing that, which I think is pretty interesting, right? Because I think Herald is a great example. If you have a Herald in your group, all of a sudden, yeah, Heal Scourge is really, really good. Heal Spectre works out pretty well, right? If you have a Quickness Herald in your group. And I think that's true with a lot of the kind of slightly underdeveloped support builds right now. If you have a Herald, they work. If you don't, then they're a bit, it doesn't, it's not quite there yet, right? And I think having more options to flesh out your build so it kind of fits the way the game plays out is actually really important. Like, we have to acknowledge the fact that Guild Wars 2, as much as we like to say, oh, you can play any build and it's good, people play it in a certain way. There's no denying that, right? People want boons. They want quickness, they want might, they want alacrity. That is just the way it is, and that is never going to change. The question is how do we allow players to play builds and playstyles that they enjoy in such a way that they're going to be able to find success and be effective with that kind of stuff. Okay, no, we're safe.
I have nothing to add. That's great.
We're safe.
Yeah, we're safe. It's to go back to the relic thing. It says observant players will recognize that the boss uses abilities akin to certain relics, a feature that further blends the new gameplay mechanics with the challenges introduced in the expansion. This connection enhances the strategic depth of the battle, inviting players to creatively leverage their relic upgrades to get the upper hand on the boss. So, like, I mean, that's a slightly weirdly worded statement, but I don't think it's saying that you like need to have a certain relic. It's saying that the relics are good, right? They're going to be powerful, panic. Right?
Nobody panic.
Nobody panic. They're just going to be good, right? Yeah. It's a bit.
I think it's going to be really fun to toy around with it. Once, I mean, especially when we have the legendary one, you can just kind of like test all the different things, jumping from one fight to another with all these different effects.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because one of them was like when you use an elite skill, it does like a massive pull or something. So if your build is lacking CC,
or you need to pull, right? You can use that.
You need to pull. Yeah. A lot of classes don't have like a really good pull.
There's so many builds that I've, or like classes over the years that I've really wanted to just have that like massive pull. And because it's so effective.
I think they're actually implying, by the way, in that one that the boss is going to have boons that you'll need to remove. Because that one in particular, it's the relic of it's Ceres, right? Was the boss they tested, which is actually, funny enough, the end boss of the expansion. Nice, not spoiling anything, ain't it? Omega Lul, right? Weird marketing. But anyway, the relic of Ceres, you get when you use your elite skill, like a giant eye spawns and fires out a beam that rotates around your character that corrupts boons. So I'm pretty sure what they're saying there is that the boss is maybe going to steal your boons or going to gain boons, and maybe you want to use that relic to remove those boons if your comp doesn't have that, for example. That's kind of scary, by the way. Every class in the entire game is going to have boon corruption now. That's going to be fun.
Ouch.
I hope the skill effects look cool. I think some cool new animations in your rotation would be really cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's big. That's big. Get that. That eyeball. Boona going out there. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there for Relics to actually really fix some issues with the game. Kind of speaking about this. I want. Do you guys know something really weird? This is actually a complete derail, but I'm doing it anyway because I think it's a really interesting topic. How do you guys feel about the fact that if you are a new player coming into Soto, you will not have any elite specializations? You are core.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that weird? Because bear in mind, core specs suck. They are bad compared to elite specs, right? And they're kind of let's not bullshit. They're less fun as well, right? To play. Isn't that kind of interesting? I think it's. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, it's really. I think as soon as you hit 80, you've just played a lot of the game. You might be a bit worn down, a bit tired of the monotony. You might be used to your core rotation or whatever. But now that you've hit 80, you can specialize, and now your whole rotation, your whole build is totally different. I think not having that is gonna suck a lot. Yeah, for a lot of players. Especially, it's just such a core part of the game. And I really wish that basically, what I wish they had done is just have, you can pick any elite spec, but the hero points in the Soto maps only give you enough to give you one elite spec.
That would be cool. I think it would be really cool if users could like pick a few to unlock or like work to unlock them somehow so you can get elite specs.
But isn't the whole point to like incentivize players, new players especially, to buy the other expansions and participate in that content as well, and then also
maybe you could get them with gems. I guess I guess the answer is just go buy the expansion, right? Like I guess that's just that's gonna be the pathway. Yeah, it's just weird to me that maybe it would be good to give away a few of them for free just so players can kind of get a taste. Because I do think playing the game, especially in PvE on core, is actually a very different experience, right? And that is a bit weird to me. It's not exactly what would be the word for it? I feel like saying false impression is a little bit harsh. But I mean this in like the positive way. Like you're not gonna get an accurate representation of what Guild Wars 2 is like unless you have elite specs. Do you know what I mean? It's not the same. Yeah. It's very different. And I think that's something that ArenaNet need to be mindful of actually, because they could potentially like have players fall off a little bit if they don't end up buying more expansions, right? Because they probably aren't going to be as sucked in by core specs as they would by elite specializations. But yeah.
Hopefully the game is enticing enough that they want to buy the other expansions then and participate in that and get the elite specializations. Because I mean,
giving HOT away for free would be cool. Honestly, giving HOT away for free could be interesting. So you always have HOT elite specs as a baseline, because those are some of the good ones too. Actually, those are pretty hype.
Yeah.
Because it's also weird from a balance POV, right? Because core specs are so much weaker than HOT. Well, any elite spec. Just think about that. They have to basically balance all of Soto under the assumption that potentially people could be doing it in core builds. Right? Yep. That's kind of weird. That's a bit weird.
Yeah. I don't know how many we'll actually see, but it's an interesting point of view.
Yeah.
Or potential.
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say about that. I want to hit a little bit of sauce here. Rifts. What do you guys think about rifts? I don't even know what to say.
I think on the surface, as they've showcased it, it looks kind of boring. But at the same time, I was one of the few that actually kind of really liked bounty farming, like the bounty trains at POF.
Mm-hmm.
I always found that if they would just be improved slightly. I forget what my actual points were back then, but like I felt like there was so much potential in it because it could be so good, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And I hope that with this, at least, we have the incentive, which is the legendary armor. It's going to be tied to the rifts, right? If I remember correctly. And so hopefully the content is good as well. But I don't know. I'm having a hard time really understanding the concept of like doing a solo thing to get a thing to upgrade the next rift to bigger thing, and then you slay a bigger thing for what? Like maybe it's just a lack of actual hands-on experience with it, but it sounds arbitrarily convoluted. I think it's
because I didn't realize I didn't realize for the longest time how it worked, but I saw like one of the recent articles described that you use another currency to upgrade the rifts, which means you have to farm that currency somewhere. So it just kind of adds like an extra step to that loop that I don't think is super necessary.
And let's be real, like if the next step of that chain is going to be like just someone upgrades that rift, then people are just going to leech whoever does the solo ones. And then the solo guy is just going to get fucked with like spending all his currency or whatever. Like I don't know. I don't know what the point of this is.
What I think is, regardless, I think people are going to get pretty tired of Cryptus very quickly. Because every rift is just Cryptus, so we're going to be doing that for a long time.
There better be some great bosses, and they better have removed all of the bounty effects, because those are absolute cancerous. They are like it's so annoying. Some of these like ads, like why do they persist even into End of Dragons? Like they're 100% going to persist into Social as well. But I wish that they would just not.
Yeah.
Because those are part of the like RNG of the bounties that would just like kill it. Because all of a sudden you take an easy, cool boss and it takes twice or 3 times as long just because you have you can't attack in melee anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, stop. Why?
I think it would be a lot better if each boss would have like assigned one of those, so it's like the same every time. That would like you could like design it so that it makes sense mechanically, as opposed. I don't know. Some of them are just really unfun. Like the you use power attack in melee is like really unfun. Like fuck that, right? Absolute trash. Yeah. Like some of them can be interesting, I think, but yeah, in general, I think it's unnecessary. I think the encounters should and could speak for themselves. And don't need like this added like random bullshit. It feels like any mechanic. It feels like anything that tries to do this in a game always ends up a little bit unfun. Like I kind of feel this about affixes in WoW, to be honest. About instabilities in fractals, and definitely the bounty stuff. It's like, yeah, I understand what you're trying to do, but is it actually fun to have like these random little annoyances, basically? Because the problem is it's really hard to strike that balance. I feel like with all these systems, and this is, I think, in my opinion, like very true in WoW, they either do nothing or it's like, fuck this, I hate it so much. And it's just, I think it's the same in fractals as well, right? Some of the instabilities, like,
there's no in between.
It does like nothing. Like the instability is completely worthless, right? Like it doesn't do anything. You just ignore it basically. And some of the instabs, you're like, okay, this sucks. This is not fun.
It's just going to be a bad day.
It's going to be a rough day. You know, funnily enough, I actually think that the Guild Wars 2 Fractal implementation of this has actually got a lot better. This might be a hot take, but I actually kind of like the fact that when you have Toxic Sickness, you can, like, spit on the boss to make it do less damage. I really think ArenaNet are onto something here with having these bonuses or randomness. Like, they have play on your end, so instead of them happening to you, it's something that you actually do. You interact with it in a more direct way. I think that is a really good way to take that randomness and actually make it fun to play. But they're still not there with most of them. Like, most of them aren't like that. There's not a lot of counterplay to a lot of them. But yeah, it's that type of mechanic just doesn't seem to work out well. The thing that really bothers me about Rifts, and this, I feel like the same thing happened to Bounties, is that Bounties had like a really bad first impression. What concerns me about Rifts is that they're only releasing like the small Rifts on launch. Like the big ones that have like the more complicated bosses, that's coming out later. That is actually quite bothersome to me, because it means that, oh boy, these had better be fun and rewarding and not annoying to do. Otherwise, this might be DOA in terms of this game system. Actually, that's not true, because you're going to need to grind. You're going to have to grind legendaries for them. So, like, they have that insurance, I guess. Like, realistically, you're going to be doing these no matter what, I guess. But I really hope that their kind of reputation and image isn't besmirched by the fact that, like, the interesting stuff isn't in there on launch, right? I think first impressions are pretty important.
Yeah. We've mentioned the legendary armor a couple of times here, but now pardon me for because I am slightly rusty on lore and stuff like that. But and I haven't seen all that many. I have not necessarily read every single post on Reddit, but the Cryptus, we're just talking about like demons from the like Guild Wars 1 era, the Tormented Realm, right? And the legendary armor is Obsidian armor. We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah.
Or am I completely off point here? Because that seems like the most obvious thing that's definitely coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that we're kind of investigating into that world. Yeah.
Well, maybe chat.
There's a few hints. I think they showed some things that are kind of suggesting areas of the mist, such as Fissure of Woe, potentially is getting into the mix, right? Some of these kind of Guild Wars 1 elite area, dungeon areas, the Cryptus, they are definitely kind of like, they're demons, right? Like potentially from some of these demonic realms that we were also experiencing in Guild Wars 1. They seem to, what's interesting actually, I think it's kind of implied with some of the lore that got dropped today actually, that the Cryptus might be linked in some way to the stuff going on in Guyala Delves, because they this is quite funny, it's such a meme, they feed on your emotions, right? They feast upon your feelings, okay? And that was kind of what was happening in Guyala Delves, so I think there's like an implied link there. So like all of this kind of demonic influence, that I think all of it is going to end up being connected. We know that I don't know if you saw this, Deroir, on the new map there are these islands and it's Bastion of the, and it's because this was created by the Astral Ward, right? Like the demons were there. This is all linked together. Demos is probably a Cryptus in lore now. I guess it's a bit of a retcon, but that seems to be where they're going to be going with this. Like Demos is going to be yeah, this will. I wouldn't be surprised if Demos was even referenced, right? Like in the story.
Curious, yeah, what the actual, because like when I first read that, I was or heard that, I was kind of like, I couldn't really recall what the actual story of Bastion of the Penitent was, but so I had to look it up, and it was like, oh yeah, we all kind of agreed that this was like a Mersant outpost. I wonder how that story is probably going to be viewed now going into Soto. I have this feeling that it's probably like an old abandoned wizard's bastion taken over by the Mersant, because the Mersant were probably part of the wizards the court or whatever they're called, or something like that. Or they allied with the demons, and the demons have always tried to like infiltrate the world, and the wizards are like, there's all these weird potential connections to Bastion of the Penitent, but Bastion of the Penitent to this day is still one of the absolute coolest pieces of lore that we have in the entire game. I remember that whole like experience of like learning the lore, and like this was like one of the first times when we actually had like a deep dark feeling to the game. Like you're entering this prison, everything was horrid and bad, and then you see this giant demon that just
I want them to go hard on it. I want them to go hard. Like I want it to be kind of a bit spooky, a bit darker than the usual stories. I'm almost like a little bit worried they won't lean into that, because they've already got, oh yes, they feed on your emotions. Like, are we going edgy here or not? I don't know about this, right? Like, I really hope they lean into that, because the enemies, they are pretty, you know, like they are a bit disgusting, right? And that's good. You know, we've got these tentacles like breaking out of these rifts, all that kind of stuff. I think it'll be really cool if we do have a very different theme. You know, I've always found the Guild Wars 2 story to be a little bit too sunshine and rainbows, right? Like, even when bad stuff is happening, it's like, oh yeah, you know, like, here we go, off adventuring again. Isn't this fun? It's the end of the world. Yeah, I think I'm really hoping for for them to take a darker tone with this expansion. I hope they really lean into it and are able to deliver on that.
I actually kind of hope they reuse areas in the game. I hope they kind of do something with Bastion of the Penitent, like either make it part of a collection that you've got to complete, or they're gonna maybe reuse the map for like a story instance that you go through.
I could see like a what's it called, like a retrospective, like when you see back into the past, that kind of story instance. But I would be very surprised if they ask you to complete a raid for anything. But that's just, I don't know, the development of the game. But it would be cool. I completely agree.
Yeah, it definitely would be cool. Yeah, rifts.
In general, I don't know what to really expect from them.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, and this is something that I really wish they showed more gameplay, right? Like, show fucking gameplay. Like the trailer,
like a nothing burger, because it's just like event. They showed nothing. Am I supposed to be excited for an event?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like from the sound of it, their implementation feels a little clunky as well. Like you got to use the heart thing. You got to use it like 3 or 4 times throughout this entire process. I think you use it to find where it is. You go there, you stand still and use it again to summon it. You use it again to upgrade it. You use it again to close the rift. And I feel like that's just gonna feel real monotonous, real quick. Yeah.
If I'm constantly stopping to like twirl my hands. And like pause my gameplay just to like have a spinny animation.
Yeah. And then it feels antithetical to Guild Wars 2's design. And I feel like a lot of events in Guild Wars 2, you just kind of like organically pop into. You see something happening in the distance, you go there, you start tuning in. Whereas this feels like really like inorganic is the only word that comes to mind. It's just like a spawn event, collect reward, leave, spawn another event, collect a reward. It just feels that's not Guild Wars 2 to me, really.
Yeah, I hope they do have it as a smooth, kind of low downtime experience. It will be annoying if there's a lot of just busy work attached to completing these rifts. I think ArenaNet does have a relatively good track record of preventing that from happening, so we'll see. Maybe a lot of it will be automated without having to like press buttons and click and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Like it'll be very interesting, like to see the implementation of how the system actually works. I think it's really cool that it will be in the core game, by the way, because that means even players who are free to play will potentially see some of the stuff going on. It'll be pretty cool, right? I think. I do
Demons
like the
coming
idea
up,
of like demon invasions, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't appear to be quite as visually interesting as I was hoping for.
Yeah.
But you know, whatever. Like I guess me, you know, maybe my expectations were set a little bit too high on that. I'm not going to be not the end of the world in my opinion.
Maybe the bigger events will have a bigger impact. I mean, one can hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I mean, on the topic of like the fondling and orb, we did kind of have that same thing with the bounties. Like you had to go back
to
and
the
pick
board,
up the bounty, and then you had to go out again. This is at least a slightly more fondle. Oh my god. Yeah. This is at least a slightly more streamlined thing, even if it requires you to constantly fondle. Yeah. So we got that going for us, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I shot myself in the foot right there, didn't I?
I think people love that stuff. People want it. I think people want to hear you say the word fondle a little bit more, right? Like talk about fondling orbs left and right. Like that's the kind of content. Any fondlers in the chat, guys? Any fondle gamers? Yeah, it's certainly a big question mark. You know, I hope next time around I'd like to see more. You know, I feel kind of the same way about strike missions. You know, I'm not even making a fuss about it because at this point I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to log on and blast. Who cares, right? But I think a lot of players are actually concerned. I think this is maybe even more so with fractals, right? Is the next fractal going to be basically a strike mission like Silent Surf? Is it going to be more of a traditional dungeon? Who the fuck knows? At this point. Are the strike missions supposed to be hard? Are the CMs going to be hard? What's the vision? Like, you know, what's the goal, right? What's the vision for this content? And I think that's maybe something that's been lacking with Soto. I hope that gets clarified. I think it would have been really awesome to have some just like proper dev streams. Like the balanced ones. I think the balanced ones, I think that really satisfied the community. I think they were awesome content, right? With CMC and Roy just going through, right, the Balanced Manifesto. We you know, imagine, think of the hype around that. People were so hyped up for the Balanced Manifesto. I will not stop calling it that, but I will not stop calling it that. It is the Balanced Manifesto. Like we all know it, guys. It's the manifesto. Okay. I'd love to see the Strike Manifesto. That sounds bad, actually. I'd like to see the Fractal Manifesto as well. There's a lot of stuff that I think could be clarified there. And I think a similar explanation of rifts would have been very cool, actually. I think it's, you know, if you're introducing these really cool new features that you're selling your expansion on, some exploration into those features would have been really cool. As of right now, there's a lot of question marks. And ArenaNet, like, you know, obviously are going to know that if you leave question marks up in the air, people are going to assume the worst, especially in Guild Wars 2, right? When your last patch was Guile of Delves, right? People are obviously going to assume the worst.
The tunnel that's coming for all of us.
The tunnel.
In our nightmares.
Yeah.
Our deepest, darkest nightmares.
The tunnel!
The tunnel.
Yeah.
The end of the tunnel.
Did you see the full picture? The thing that they were releasing a little slice of that picture every day, and now it's the complete picture, and it looks like a tunnel. It looks like a red overgrown tunnel.
The tunnel is
Tunnel the sequel.
The tunnel.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Tunnel 2.
Yeah. That was a strange piece of marketing.
What the 6 pictures or?
Yeah, the 6 pictures. Like I thought that
it's only really strange because we had that like leaked image from that one article. Or
yeah,
I think
it's literally the same image, right? It's literally the same. Yeah,
supposed to be shown. It's exactly the same.
Yeah,
it's
so funny. Yeah, exactly. Like
I think honestly,
it would have been so cool if it was like, oh my god, what is this? But
I need someone.
It just turns out to be exactly the same thing.
Did anyone in chat not see that leaked picture and then saw this and got excited? That's my question.
But and I saw the leaked picture. So I mean, it's like I was like, oh, I guess it's a slightly deep fried version of this leaked image that we've seen, right? Like,
right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's something.
It would have been cool if not for journalists.
Whoa!
Damn.
Throwing them under the bus, huh? Deroir, you heard it here first. Deroir despises journalists.
I have very fantastic experiences with game journalists.
That's true, actually. You know, Deroir.
As y'all know.
Yeah. you know what's funny? Most people in the chat probably don't know.
No,
They don't even know the law.
I am
They don't even know the
basically
history.
a new player who does. I mean,
Yeah.
I used
nobody
to
knows
I
who the fuck
actually I
you
used to edit a news show, like a gaming news show, and that came
Bro.
up. And I was like playing Guild Wars 2 at the time, and I was like, oh no, why does this
Yeah.
have to be a mention of Guild Wars 2?
Claim to
Yeah.
fame.
Rando asshat and slightly disagreeing. That's the claim to fame.
I still walk around
no.
and say like rando asset out loud to like people who have absolutely no fucking clue about what I'm talking about. But it's just
Yeah.
like it just sticks so deep in my brain now. It's this core memory. It'll never go away.
Yeah.
Weird times, yo.
Weary stare.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a deep cut, my god.
Oh, that is content. Right, where were we? What are we talking about?
What else is there to talk about with Soto? What are we missing? Is that it? Is that all?
Did we do all of it?
I mean, it's kind of it. Yeah.
I feel like we kind of did all of it, right?
Because we don't know anything about the fractal. We don't know anything about all the other things that are coming later on. So what we're getting right now is like
very excited about the new weapons. That's the new weapon.
Oh yeah, that is going to be good.
That's going to be
like. Oddly enough, not excited about the weapon master at all because there's. I don't know. It seems kind of boring. I'm
not
super
that excited
about
the elite specs. Yeah.
No, like the fully. He's talking about the fully new ones, like the fully new ones. Yeah.
I am. Yes.
I think this is actually a really big advantage of their new release schedule, is that we're going to be getting really cool things outside of an expansion. That's kind of interesting, I think. Because as you normally have to wait, because basically what's happening is like everyone's getting a new weapon about 6 months-ish, it looks like, after expansion launch. And that can be really impactful.
Let's go. Thief Axe, that got me so fucking hyped when I saw that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I think that can be really interesting. There can be a lot there. And that's going to be outside of the expansion cycle. Bear that in mind, right? Or rather, outside of the expansion. That's going to be just in a standalone patch. Alongside various other balance changes and so on that they're going to keep doing, of course.
Yeah, and I mean, they can do it now because when you pay for that expansion, all that stuff's included. It doesn't have to be a separate purchase. So
exactly.
There's nothing blocking them from putting cool features there.
It does feel a little bit weird and disconnected, though, that they're launching it the expansion, but maybe that's just because I've come to like associate elite specializations and like build developments like that with the launch of an expansion, and now it's just not there. But yeah, maybe that's just why it feels weird to me. But I would have loved to have it on launch.
Yeah,
and I feel like this would have been a monster of an expansion if everything that's coming later dropped with the expansion. It would have been a monster. It would have been.
And then
here's a question.
Drought.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Here's the question, and I think this is food
Exactly.
for thought for everyone listening and everyone here as well. Is that what do we prefer? Do we prefer having kind of like an expansion half the size than the rest of it over the next 9 months, or do we prefer having all of it in one go but with like a 2-year gap in between? And by the way, no wrong answer, actually. I want to be clear there. That's not a rhetorical question. No wrong answer. I think that you could 100% argue both ways. You could have a preference both ways. I think you could make it perfectly valid.
I think from like an objective standpoint, like personally, I would love for everything to just kind of drop because I'm that kind of person. But from like an objective standpoint, I do acknowledge that like for the health of the game, it's better to separate it out, to split it up. And like just funnel it in slowly so that it feels like the game is alive. There's always updates. There's something on the horizon. We know what's coming. All these things, like it garners hype. It gathers excitement. All these things. And you don't really have that like flow if you just drop the whole fucking thing. As great as that would be.
My ideal model was what they had going on. In the Heart of Thorns Path of Fire area. It was a big expansion, a full season, and then next expansion, next season, and they all kind of like lead into each other. That to me was like the ideal model, and I think I would have wished that had they like built up the team enough to be able to sustain that would have been really cool going forward, because I think that was perfect. But given the circumstances we're in, I think I'd rather take what we've got now than just have the the full drop, and then just nothing for the next year or two. Because I mean, every expansion we've always been uncertain of like, is there a season coming after this, or like what's coming after the expansion? This is the first time where I feel like I'm actually excited for everything that comes after the expansion as well as what drops. So I think it'll keep me engaged in the game a lot more, because I think you're gonna have something interesting coming out every 3 months, like something proper interesting, which is it's exciting.
That's definitely what I like about that's what I like about the game as well. There's gonna be just stuff to do constantly, which I think is actually really good. So yeah, personally, I'll admit it. I'm on side with this new release schedule. I think for me it will make the game more interesting. It will definitely keep me a bit more engaged with the game for sure. I don't like going like, okay, I've got to wait like a year before anything happens again. I was like, oh great, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah, I think the fact that there's going to be something that should be pretty good. There's like 3 pieces of challenge mode content, right? So it's going to be 1 per month, 3 months rather, like, or something like that. That's how it's going to go. They'll do like 1 each, or maybe they'll do 2 in 1, and there'll be like a delay or whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, that's pretty cool, right? That means that I can log into the game. Boom, there's going to be something to do. Love it. I know it's coming. I know when the next thing is going to be coming as well. There's going to be new builds to play. You can get like there's going to be new power creep to mess around with and do 50k DPS. It's going to be great. It's going to be a good time. It's good.
I think for me, the balance I'm going to have to hit is like, how much grind do I feel is necessary for whatever comes after? Because like for me, it's all about that legendary armor. I want to grind that, but not knowing what the actual end goal is, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just going to burn out on the rifts within like 2 weeks, or if I'm going to be going hard for like 6 months every day, just pump event chains one after another. And then
isn't that
when
in a
it
way
actually dropped, I realized that was way too much. I mean, who knows?
I think that's almost like the intention. I mean, it would be nice to know like how much of the the various currencies you'll need, I guess, for that kind of stuff. Is it kind of taking you back to your dead? I definitely won't remember you doing this. Do you remember when you were doing like the fucking unhinged currency grinds on HOT release, like multi-boxing the maps and like leaping into them? Oh, dude, those are
it was absolutely insane. That was like
it was like
for me.
That was
And
like
I was
fucking
so
lunatic.
pissed.
Yeah. Because then they nerfed it, right? They nerfed it really hard, didn't they? Right?
They nerfed it immediately. Like it was basically the moment that I'd gotten everything. It was like
you got
everything
nerfed.
Completed. Nerf. Boom. And then everyone else were like, let's go, let's get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like a fucking idiot right there.
Yeah. So basically, guys, for context, there were like insane currency grinds at the start of HOT, and Deroir was doing like uber efficient, like multi-map farming, like by having his ults in different IPs and then jumping into them and shit like that. And they fucking nerfed it, like hard as well. They like nerfed it really hard. Yeah. In the same way that Deroir also got every legendary in the entire game for all of his characters, and they added the armory and completely fucked him. Yeah, brutal. Yeah. How many of the legendary chests did they send you? How many did they send you?
57, I think it was.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I still have, just like as a memorabilia, like I like to keep these memorabilia of idiocy, just to like remind myself to not repeat it again. And like every time, I have this one character that still holds a lot of that like completely useless legendary gear. And like every time I see the like stack of, I think it's like 45 legendary runes, I like cringe. Like physically, it hurts me to see that. The other day on Reddit, someone was like, "Oh yeah, I made 7 extra just for the fun of it," and everyone was making fun of it. And I didn't want to come out and saying like, "Oh yeah, look at my stack. I'm a fucking idiot." Like, yeah, I recognize that. I like to go hard with shit like that. It's fun, but also it is borderline idiocy. I recognize that.
Yeah, I think in
so
a way
it's going to be fun.
yeah. You have to guess how much currency you need. You're gonna grind like 10k and you need like 1k or something, right? Like it's gonna be good. Yeah.
It's like one step, one like micro material that you need.
Yeah, and you have to like you got to like upgrade it somehow. So all of the stuff you grind is like completely worthless, right? Like. Yeah,
just my luck. Honestly, we all know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I think you should do it. I think it's time. Yeah, it sounds like content to me.
Yeah, my life has been great up till now. Let's just fuck it up.
Yeah,
with,
let's decrease the quality,
endless
right?
grind.
Let's make it a little bit worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
handle that.
It's gonna be big. Yeah. I think we're wrapping up. We didn't miss anything. I think we talked about all of it. I think that was good content. Some pretty big juice there. We love to see that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for Tuesday? I'm like an 8. I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay.
I've like taken 2 days off work.
Nice.
Let's go. I'm down.
I would. Yeah. I mean, I am not as excited for this expansion as all the others. But, you know, I think I sit around like a 7. Like, I'm pretty excited. I'm always keen for more like Guild Wars 2 content, you know? I think the only reason I'm not excited, as I was saying in like the pre-show or whatever, was that just the ArenaNet's marketing hasn't been that great. My expectations are pretty low because that's kind of what ArenaNet have set for themselves with the stuff that they've shown, or haven't shown rather. So yeah, I'm like, 7 out of 10. I'm hoping to be really pleasantly surprised by this expansion.
I mean, for me, I think I've got to apply some context here. When the expansion drops, there really isn't that much in the initial package so far that's been revealed. Maybe there's some stuff that's a bonus that we don't know about yet. Realistically, there's not much that's targeted at me as a player, right? I'm not really the target demographic for a lot of the releases here. Outside of the strike normal modes, but again, normal mode is it's not really going to be what I'm looking for, in an MMO experience. So I wouldn't say I'm like mega excited. I'm way more excited for like after release. Like, and this is like a really weird position for me to be in. I am way more interested in everything happening in 3 months from now, in 6 months from now. In terms of that, like new weapons, I think, that's going to be really interesting. Strike CM, really interesting. On launch though, I'll give it like a 6 out of 10, right? Maybe like a 5.5. I'm just being honest, right? I don't really feel a lot of energy because realistically, I don't think the initial drop is really going to have the stuff that I'm interested in, right? That, that's coming later. On launch, there's not really that much targeted at me that that I'm going to want to engage in.
And I think I'm completely there with you as well. Like a lot of the things that I'm actually excited for comes later, but I think there's at least to me, there's something magical or special about like having that X-Pack drop. Like we all just jump in. Everyone's excited. New story, new achievements. Everything's just like boom, 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 fun and exciting for at least a couple of days, and then then the doom sets in again. But
doom.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, nice. I just want to ask this question at the end just for the memes. Okay, let's imagine it drops. It's a complete disaster. How do you think that plays out?
What
do you think happens to Guild Wars 2?
People are still going to stick around. I mean, look at the tunnel, my dude. People stuck around after the tunnel. We can't dig
That's
deeper.
True. That is true, actually, If we survive the tunnel, then you can survive anything, right?
Everyone survived a full year of Living Worlds Season 1 re-release and then Giala Delve. So if they've survived that after almost 2 years, I think we can survive whatever sort of is dishing out.
Everyone who's still here, they're here for the long run.
Yeah. The tunnel cannot be beaten. Oh. There's no way they could do a release worse than the tunnel. I don't think it's possible.
Are you sure they're not going to have a tunnel with? Except now you ride the sky scale.
It would be
down with the sky scale.
It would be so hard. It would be so difficult.
In the sky.
Yeah,
I think it would be so difficult to release something worse than the tunnel.
Yeah. I think, as you said at the start, though, there's going to be there's going to be growing pains. It is going to be a smaller release, and everyone's going to compare it to previous expansions. Yeah, but I don't think that's a fair comparison. It's not the same thing. It is smaller, but I just hope it pans out. Honestly, I was dooming hard when that Rift video came out, and I was exploring my options. I'm like, am I going back to WoW or Final Fantasy? And I've like resubbed to them. I've like logged into my characters. I'm trying to figure out which one I would main if Guild Wars 2 kind of flops with this expansion. But I hope it goes well. I really love Guild Wars 2. I want to see it continue. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
hope it
locked
does.
in. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I am also, I
Okay,
feel like
okay.
I'm in that camp of being a way more casual player now. I have way more going on with my life, with my job,
Yep.
that I'm just down for some, some fun. And like, I have friends that are just, like, I have a friend that's a neurosurgeon, and he's so busy with life that Guild Wars 2 is the only only MMO that he can play, because it doesn't require him to catch up. And I think that's going to be a similar position to what I'm going to be in, where I'm just going to be so busy. Guild Wars 2 is the only one that's there for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's fair
Same.
enough. Yeah,
Perfect.
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much of the same mind on this. I think that we're going to see the full story with the next expansion after this. Once we've like seen the whole cycle, that's almost the time when we'll be able to actually properly and fairly judge it, right? With what's actually going on. But an interesting time. Interesting time. I am definitely a Grouch enjoyer, that's for sure. In terms of game director, definitely a fan of his approach to developing Guild Wars 2. But we'll see how it goes, right? We'll see how it goes. I'm very interested to see how it pans out. And of course, I'll be doing a lot of talking about that. So stay tuned for that, I suppose. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of commentary, a lot of discussion about how it actually pans out over the next coming week. But yeah, anyone got Anyone got any final thoughts before we close things out here and disappear off into the internet and wait for the expansion?
The trailer better be a banger.
Yeah?
That's it. Yeah.
I got nothing.
He's got nothing.
Nothing to add.
He's drained.
I don't know. I've got
drained dry.
I am so pumped, actually. Yeah.
Nice. I like
This
your
whole
energy.
conversation
I'm feeding
just
off
got
it
me
right
like,
now. It's making me excited.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
All right.
Let's blast, guys.
In that case, that's going to just about do it for this tea time. Thanks for watching, everyone. And of course, a big thank you to my wonderful hosts for joining me here today to discuss Guild Wars 2.
Absolutely.
Secrets of the Obscure. So, do you have any kind of... neither of you two actually make a lot of Guild Wars 2 content right now.
Yeah, no, hit me up in game.
So,
I mean...
Yeah, you got... I mean, you got to shout something out. You can if you want.
Okay.
You can do a little bit of shout-out stuff. You can talk about stuff that you're doing, or... I don't know.
Yeah.
Twitter, maybe. X.com. Yeah.
Boycott X.
Unlucky.
Yeah,
That's my shout-out here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Fuck that guy.
Yep.
Well, I still am making... I mean, I haven't made any videos in a while, but I am, like, you can find me as Bloom on YouTube. I'm hoping to... There'll probably be stuff with Soto that I'll make videos about. But I'm also a reviewer on a YouTube channel called Skill Up. And I will probably be doing a review of Guild Wars 2 and the expansion on that channel. So subscribe to that. Hopefully I get a pay raise. Hopefully the video pops off and my boss can stop teasing me that I'm playing a dead game, apparently. So
everyone in chat, that's a call for you to click the article, read everything, stay on the site, do the thing.
We love to see it. And do you have anything you want to mention, Deroir? Talk to you in game. What's the in game name?
Say hi to me in game. What is it? Jables8130.
Boom. There it is. And of course, communicate with these wonderful guests. Prepare for the Bloom review. Message Deroir in game about various topics. Okay.
Say hi.
Yeah. Say hi. There it is. Ask for the return of Deroira. There's another one for the new friends who don't remember that stuff. But anyway.
Some things are better left forgotten.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to forget. I think a lot of them, they enjoyed it. But anyway, thanks for watching, gamers. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Be sure to follow, subscribe on YouTube, leave comments. Let us know what you think about the expansion, okay? Let us know what you think about our opinions on the expansion. And more importantly, okay, you're welcome for the lack of trees this time. I actually held them back a little bit. They're unleashing now. As you can see here, they're dropping a lot of trees into the chat. The XDD tree spam is now going to begin. But yeah, your chat experience has been preserved. But anyway, that's going to just about do it for this tea time. Really hope you have enjoyed the show. Once again, follow, like, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And of course, we'll see you next time. And I'll see you there streaming like a degenerate, farming those Twitch drops for like 12 hours a day. over the next week. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun. Let's explore the expansion together, and hopefully it doesn't suck. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, gamers.
On the other side.
We'll see you on the other side, indeed. We will see you next time. Take it easy, gamers. We're out of here.